Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, all the fellow Escova Media Podcast listeners, downloaders, streamers. Appreciate you guys for sharing the podcast and for also connecting with us on social media. You can connect with us on Twitter at Moscova ENT. Check us out there. A lot of great followers, so be sure to check out our follower list as well. If you're on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Moscova Enterprises, and you can check out our amazing Facebook page over there. And then Instagram. I want you to go to my Instagram if you have a chance. You could check out my personal page where I post a lot of different work I've done in the acting and modeling world, as well as I post a lot of podcasts. So you can see podcast episodes from MJ Gottlieb, who's Damon John's good friend from FUBU, as well as the infamous Tahiri. I got an episode with her over there, as well as some other artists. Like from Cypress Hill, got an episode with a legendary member of the Cypress Hill gang on there as well. So be sure to check that out. The past episodes were on iTunes, just got on iHeartRadio. Thank you, iHeart. Appreciate you. Check us out on Google, Deezer. Did I mention iTunes? Yeah, go to iTunes, Moscova Media Podcast for the people with iPhones. If you don't have an iPhone, go to Spotify. You can check it out there as well. And I appreciate you. So we're over on about 14 sites. Of course, the Big Dog Pitbull site, blogtalkradio.com/Moscova Enterprises, and you can check out a lot of great podcast episodes. So I really thank you for sharing and caring. You guys are the best. Without you, none of this would be possible. So that's why we want to be able to give back. So if you DM me, I have a actual sales and marketing book or info that I can give you right from the website. And we'll share a lot of sales and information on marketing. Also, if you just want to take hold and learn how to podcast or build websites or apps yourself, also have the course on thinkific.com. So you can go to moscovaacademy.thinkific.com, which is Moscova, MOSCOVA, academy.thinkific, which is THINKIFIC.com. And you can check out the wonderful marketing, e-marketing, social media, digital marketing course that entails a lot. Will help you learn how to do a lot of these things yourself. Now, of course, I've had to learn over the years myself, while also working with different clients such as Ford, Sanders, Old Spice, as well as different apps that I've worked with and different private clients. So appreciate you for subscribing to the Thinkific and getting all that info yourself and learning how to do it all yourself. If you have any questions, you can either go to YouTube, Moscova Media, and check out a lot more free how-tos on how to do a lot of these techniques or whatnot, and just figure out what works for you. So YouTube has a plethora of videos on there where you can basically ask me questions and I'll create more content for you. But what's even more important than that, today we have an amazing guest that decided to create a tell-all book called Blackout the infamous Paul Porter. Blackout has garnered praise from culture icons including Chuck D and joy-annreid. Music industry veteran Paul Porter has released the book Blackout. It's an explosive look at the corruption running rampant in the music industry. Blackout details Porter's experiences in the music industry from his first stint in radio in 1976, when the busing riots in Boston sent him scrambling to WRBB at Northeastern University, to his tenure at BET and some of the nation's top-rated radio stations. So this guy's seen it all. And radio, kind of like comedians, are one of the first connections to the people as far as what's going on in life and or whatnot, besides different artists. The book has already garnered the endorsement of major cultural figures, including Chuck D, Public Enemy, who called Porter a guru and visionary and said Blackout will truly explain why things are the way they are. Tim Winter, president of the Parents Television Council, called Blackout a compelling personal story about how the music industry really operates, that and also offers an enlightening message of hope for the music industry and for its broader impact on our culture. Paul Porter has been a force in radio, music and television for over 4 decades. His deep, seductive voice has resonated on the airwaves of many of the nation's top-rated radio stations, and he spent 10 years at BET as program director, consultant, and on-air talent. Porter's expertise and activism have established him as a thought leader in the radio and music industry, and he is often sought out by major media outlets including CNN, MSNBC, Sirius XM, Entertainment Tonight, Fox News, to comment on his music, culture, and race. He's also a co-founder of music industry nonprofit IndustryEars.com and music and culture website raprehab.com, and currently serves as program director at Orlando's low-power FM station, The Wire 98.5. So as you can see, this man has been doing it for years and years. Are you there, Paul?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening. How are you?
Very well, sir. Very good. Thank you so much for all the amazing work you put in when it comes to your activism, as well as the work you did in the music, radio, and TV world. We really appreciate you doing all that and, providing hope for us. When it comes to this book, Blackout, what made you feel like, now was the right time to really, shed some light on what's going on in the music industry?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it started 10 years ago. I had a book deal from HarperCollins, and the book was called The Same Songs, Payola Power in the Music Industry. I wrote this great book, got a 6-digit advance, and when I handed it in, my publisher said to me, there's too many stories in here. And HarperCollins was owned by Sony BMG, who a lot of the stories that were in the book had Clive Davis, it had Def Jam stories, and it wasn't all good stories. It was, stories about payola and parties and some of the crazy stuff. So they decided not to put the book out and told me to keep my advance and wait 7 years. So I procrastinated a couple of years and updated the book some, edited out a lot of the book too, because I just wanted to see what the impact would be. And then, some of the dirt, there's a lot of dirt in it, but a lot of the crazy shit I didn't put in the book. But I talk about it, and I got a 90-minute C-SPAN special. If you just Google Blackout Paul Porter C-SPAN, the stories get a little deeper. But, I wanted to, explain the industry from the inside out. Most books are there the same old champion books like I made $1 gazillion. Well, I didn't make $1 gazillion. I got hired and fired by the best in the business. I had rough times. I had great times. I brought Michael Jackson on stage, and that was the first act I saw when I was a kid. And later, I went to Africa with Stevie Wonder, and just have met a lot of great people. So it's been a good run, and the book has ups and downs in it.
Right. When it comes to payola, do you feel that that's very prevalent today in radio, whether it comes to East Coast or West Coast,
Man,
or even?
It is always prevalent. It's prevalent on Spotify. Look, the music industry in 2019 made over $11 billion. 12% of it went to the artists. So
wow.
Think about how much money is made in this industry. And to think that you get to make, millions of dollars and all you have to do is do a video and record music is crazy. America's a capitalist country, society, culture, you name it. Everything's about money, and people have their hands out. And yes, every now and then, once or twice a year, there's an organic hit, but there are 40,000 new titles being uploaded to social media platforms and music platforms like Spotify every day. So for you to stick out of that bunch, what's it take? More than this putting yourself on a couple of playlists. And, it takes marketing, and it takes getting to the right places. And my experience in the 43 years I've been collecting checks doing this, it's always has something to do about money. There's money involved. And, of course, there are people that'll break records for free, but there's this a point where all the money comes in. 3 major labels control everything, and we're selling this sense of false hope with the industry. But think about it. More money is made in this business on losers than winners. Look at places like iTunes. They made more off of losers paying subscriptions and selling things. So you got to think about the business side of this and figure out the easiest way to make business and to create revenue. And it's not streaming, because that's 0.005 a spin, where a radio spin will garner you a couple of dollars. So in publishing royalties. So I just always, stress that people have to think about the business side of that. And that's what I'm into is, if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu. It's for sure. So we all got to get smarter in this.
Right. Are you familiar with Hot 97 over here on the East Coast?
I work there. It's in the
okay.
book.
Well,
yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm from New York, bro.
Right. I didn't want to get too personal over there, so I wanted to, kind of bring it out. Because Funk Flex, I'm sure you're aware of him, but was talking about how radio doesn't really make artists or break artists. It just helps elevate them to superstardom. But he's been known to kind of bash payola. I'm not sure in the book if you mention any stories about any payola incidents over at Hot 97.
I mean, Flex is famous for, the battles with KRS-One, and different artists have said they've given him money and he hasn't done what he's supposed to do. And he's part of, look, pay for play is alive. Ain't nobody admitting that they're taking money from people. And it might be now there's new ways of business deals, but it's always the, cause and the root of everything when it comes to the music industry. And yes, there are exceptions, but they're very few.
So is it safe to say that at least Funk Flex and maybe others in Hot 97 do also participate in payola, even though they have vehemently
I
deny.
everywhere does. We can say Hot 97, but I can say every station that matters that's a big media-based reporter, yes, somebody's getting paid. Somebody's getting paid. That hasn't ended, you know. There's a great article that I tell people to Google. It's in Rolling Stone. Want to get on the radio? How's $50,000 sound? That's the title. If you Google Rolling Stone and Paul Porter, it's an audio read that's 22 minutes, but it breaks it down. Think about it. Why do record companies that have promotion staffs and regionals hire independent promotion men to work the same product at the same stations that they work and give them huge budgets to work it? That's so there's no paper trail. There's no connection. It's the unspoken word in the industry, and it's as American as apple pie.
Right. So how do you suppose artists like a 6ix9ine who was almost organic was able to be shut out, even though he may be able to pay his way through, you know, because he did have sales.
Well, I mean, personalities play a part of it. And like I said, you can always name one or two or three people that organically grow some stuff, but then there's a point where they reach where money opens the bigger the superstar doors. And there was a lot of money put behind him, even if it was street money, you know, just like Bobby Shmurda. You know, the story was how much he paid to get that record hot in New York at Hot 97. But radio's not hot anymore. You know, Hot 97 for years was the number 1, 2, or 3 station in New York. It's number 15. Things have changed.
Wow. Right. That's pretty amazing that you mentioned that. So you're saying that artists like 6ix9ine, you know, even him, he can't get past the music industry's doors, even with his organic.
Well, I mean, you pay as you go up the doors. Sometimes people pay for influencers, then they pay for playlists, then they pay for radio. But radios and 6ix9ine's one of those rare. He's the internet sensation. He's never gotten heavy airplay, even though he's had songs that chart number 1. You know, so figure that out. Why isn't he on the radio? Because he chooses not to pay indies $1 gazillion to get there.
Oh, wow. Oh, so that's what it actually is. Oh.
Yeah, you know, radio stations will tell you they'll play the most popular stuff, but you can go up and down their playlists and look at them and see how it doesn't always match. And those exceptions, there's plenty of exceptions to the rules or records that aren't performing, but they're from the major labels. You know, it's like going in a supermarket and you have the new greatest drink in town and you think you're going to get the same shelf position as Coca-Cola does when you walk down the Walmart aisle. Not going to happen. They've been doing business with somebody for years. They've been funding promotions and funding people, so that they're always going to get the top shot. You know, of course, there's going to be a few exceptions, but, you know, 85 to 90% of playlists are all majors.
Wow.
But they're a machine, too. You know what I mean?
Right, to get that machine behind an artist that didn't have it. As far as some of the stories you actually left out the book, are there any that you can go into right now?
I can tell you a funny story. I got to go to Africa with Stevie Wonder. So, you know, I was working at BET at the time, and they hired me to go over with the crew. Back then, AIDS was terrible in Cameroon, 96. and it was Stevie's first trip to Africa. He had never been to Africa. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm going with Stevie Wonder. It was like 9 of us. And Cameroon was big in soccer, and they were going to the Olympics, so we went to see them play. But the exciting and the silly story is that, we went to the AIDS hospital, and the AIDS hospital in Cameroon, it was just terrible. I threw up. And, all the women spoke French there, and everybody was like, oh, you were Stevie Wonder's band, Stevie Wonder's band. And all the guys were hooking up with women. And I was like, yo, man, we just went to the AIDS hospital today. Yo, it's disgusting, blah, blah, blah. They don't even speak English. And that night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I get a call. Hey, Paul, this is Stevie. Do you have any condoms?
What?
And I went downstairs and gave Stevie Wonder some condoms. Walked to the door, and a girl answers, and I gave her a box, man. So that's a crazy story, but I just felt like being silly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Who would have thought? But yeah, everybody needs to come to their animal instincts at some time. But I guess you were the supplier for the crew. That's pretty cool. You're reliable. That they could count on you for that.
But no, I mean, there's I've seen so many changes, man. Like, I grew up in a different era. The first person I met in the music business was Nina Simone when I was a little kid. And my best friend's father remarried Nina Simone, and I used to spend, weekends at the house. And then Mr. Stroud, who was a manager, a guy named Andy Stroud, he was Diddy before Diddy because he owned the Masters, and I learned a lot from him early, and to go to school and college and get on the college radio station that turned out to be a beast. And, it was an all-white school, and I was the first program director and changed it all black. And then folks that came through that station were like Wendy Williams and a guy, Jay Dixon, who's been a big programmer and part of HOD, and Darius Walker, the CNN bureau chief. So college was fun, and sort of leading a charge has been fun. And that's why I've been tied into activism, because we're losing. We're not really winning in this game. Like, we went, from getting robbed on records from labels, getting 30 cents an album. Now we get 0.005 cents for a stream, or, before it was 20 cents on a 45. But that's better odds than now fractions of a penny per spin. So, a lot of things have to be fought for. We don't control our images. BET's not black. And there's, we don't support, or should I say we don't balance our culture. We just, in hip-hop show the negative, and for a long time, hip-hop was the complete opposite. It sort of uplifted people. So, I just studied the game sort of long range and watched the changes and how the culture shifts and how the corporate control, tries to suck everything up. And we have this false sense of freedom from the internet. But the problem is the market's so over-flooded now. Back in the day, you had to go to a studio or know musicians, and then when sampling came out, it sort of created a great art form, but it oversaturated the market, and that's the bad thing.
Right. Art. I mean, not to hate on them, but artists are creating beats and music right from their iPhones and phones, which, the jump in technology is great, but the quality versus quantity issue, I feel, is something that you're bringing up and is very important.
So So last week I was watching the inauguration, and John Legend was doing a song by Nina Simone covering Feels Good. And that's like a song that's been played, and, the publishing side of a great song lasts forever. So it's John Legend doing this song, and Nina Simone wrote that song in 1965. So are there timeless hip-hop records? Like, is somebody going to cover, like, you've never heard of somebody covering, like, Hip Hop Hooray, and that's, Naughty by Nature is over 25 years old. So we're going to reach this point where we're going to sort of, hip-hop this now is sort of microwavable. It has a real quick burn, but you don't want to hear it forever. As a record like DJ Khaled now, an album that has every superstar on it burns out in 6 weeks. And before, everybody can remember back when there were songs of summer, like there were certain records that you remember for times. But, with video, we've sort of turned it into a TikTok generation. Like, artists get signed off of TikTok, not, and that's what's changing. We're turning into analytics instead of creativity.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty amazing to think about. So are you basically like kind of not really in support of the major changes? How do you feel hip hop should change to, or what are some improvements that you think artists can make?
I think the real change is ownership. Like, we got to have more black and brown people in decision-making situations. Like, Lifetime hired the sister from BET, who's the senior VP, and all of a sudden they started developing great specials. She did the R. Kelly, the Salt and Pepper, the Wendy Williams, and she did a great job. But we don't have a lot of people in positions that can sort of get out. We only rely on the internet. We don't rely on television or news or special events to tell our messages because, we get there and there's a couple of faces, but there's not enough. And a lot of that is ownership.
Right.
And in the long scheme of things, black radio stations used to be owned locally. And a lot of black owners, but all that ended. They got bought up by the big boys, and that connection between communities started getting separated. And now we're this, a fragmented, syndicated world. Before, black radio was sort of like the voice of the community. If it was WBLS in New York or, K-Day in L.A. and certain stations that everybody knew in a community and people, and they grew together. But those local connections are gone.
Yeah, people are trying their best, but having ownership in today that has a real values doesn't seem that easy to do. Because even with like a Lil Wayne that sold his catalog for I think $100 million, then got pardoned by Trump. Do moves like that showcase how artists are realizing that if they do have ownership, that's good, but there's not much value in their songs per se?
Well, it all depends who you are. Lil Wayne's one of sometimes we look at the folks on top, and there's like a layer of folks underneath. There's so many what I call public success stories and private failures, like the guys that are on top that never get paid or blow it all or do nothing for people. And there's so many artists that have had great careers and do good things that we don't celebrate. or we don't talk about, or they don't have a blue check on Instagram. So, I say seek out great artists. You'll be surprised how easy it is to find some by a Google search or a YouTube search and support some of them.
Right. More so these independent artists and companies. What are some ways artists, besides I guess ownership, but a lot of them are using different apps or whatnot to be able to sell their music online. But I've heard that deep in these contracts, they don't really own like their music per se when they use these different online sites to upload their music to Spotify and different spots.
The biggest scam in the game now is United Masters. They came out with a slick name, and Steve Stout had a slick career in the music industry. But he was one of the guys who were jerking artists for years. So all of a sudden he comes out with this great platform, United Masters, that preaches about ownership. But if you read the terms of use clause at the bottom, they have first right of refusal in this process that takes 10 to 12 months. So basically, they have the right to make your deal or ask or screw up your deal, and you can't get out. So you don't own anything. And most of the time, if somebody offers you a deal, if it takes you 10 months to get out of your deal, you're not going to have a deal. So
right.
Stuff like that where we have to study the business side of this and ask a lot of questions, because this is a game of smoke and mirrors. I mean, there are more tricks and more scams. Like I said, more money is made from people paying for this or going to this conference and doing this and buying this to do this. How much money was made from fake Spotify streams and YouTube? You ever see the 3 million likes on Instagram followers and they have 29 likes? Like, we're into paying for what we think is fame, but, it's a long road. A lot of folks come and go real quick in this game.
Right, and that's why you've been able to be here for 40 years just looking at different people as you come and go in your different successes and failures, in your resiliency, which is really great. And that's part of the reason why I wanted you to come on here, because you're definitely a great inspiration to not only the youth, but, your peers alike or whatnot. As far as the book that you have called Blackout, what are some lessons that artists can take away from it, as far as like learning better business? Because people that they may be trying to work with or whatnot, or companies, these are sometimes lawyers or people that have run different types of corporations. So a lot of these artists that are coming up may not really have a sense of business in that manner. So how would Blackout be able to teach them, what they can do better?
Oh, I talk about protecting yourself. And when you see some of the shaky deals or situations people are put in over money, you'll understand that the business side is the most important side. I don't care what your musical background and how many songs you got in your catalog, but if you can't monetize it in this world, you're a failure or you have an awfully big hobby. So, it's about business and how to open doors, and more importantly is deal with when doors close, because they always close in this game, you know, people are red hot for a while and then it's over. Like, it's very rare that people stay around for 20, 30 years in this business without, you know, taking some major hits. So you got to understand this, like I talk about, I've been hired by the best, but all them times I got fired by the best. I think I've left one job, and then I went on my own ownership tip for the second half of my career, and my hair grew back, and I got dreads down. So,
nice.
So sometimes peace of mind is always most important, because I've had a lot of friends die from stress, you know, or seeking numbers. When you're seeking numbers and not seeking great music, something's wrong, you know. But different strokes for different folks. But I'd rather play the long game than the short game. Because one of my best friends, like, he used to break all the big records for Interscope. I mean, every major tour, everything, for 15 years. And when he lost his job, there was not another $500,000 job out there which he was getting paid. He's been working in Golden Corral like the last 10 years. And I'm like,
yo,
wow, that's cold. And no severance.
Like a manager?
Yeah. Yeah. But and he's got some of the best stories in the world. He's been on tour with everybody and dealing with, you know, when you're number one. Anyway, it's a tough business, man. But I try to share, because a lot of people have shared with me, and that's why I'm on your show and every other show or every phone call I can, because we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, for sure. As far as industry-ears.com and raprehab.com, why did you create those, and what's their purpose for artists?
Well, Industry Ears was the first. Me and my partner Lisa Fega started in '99, and we started to notice how the culture was just shifting all negative. You know, hip hop had one voice. '90s came in. They went this gangster rap, super sex thing, and it's been like that ever since. But I noticed it back then when I was at BET. From, you know, in the early '90s in BET, we would edit and blurt out 40s and asses and tits and certain things. And then it just, you know, they kept pushing things through because labels wanted to show this and do this. And I remember when Nas came out with Hate Me Now, and he was nailed against a cross. And then one of the Greg Diggs basically started beefing. Well, it really was over Janet Jackson, but there were like all these crazy images that got bombarded real quick. But they hit so hard, and it's been straight ahead ever since. But, you know, there's this culture shift, you know, where you see a lot of things you would have never heard of, you know, 15 years ago. Now they got television series about it. So, you know, it's a different time. But I'm old school. Like, I think there's supposed to be some balance. Like, we're not all gangsters, and we all don't, you know, slap bitches on their ass.
Right. Or call females that all the time or whatnot. So I guess you feel, as far as the old, you know, you say you're old school or whatnot. Do you feel that hip hop and rap is kind of like becoming something controlled by the corporate Caucasian people and not becoming a tool for us anymore? And if not, what should artists and people utilize or mediums or forms of art?
Well, first, let me recommend the best hip-hop documentary ever. If you haven't seen Beyond Beats and Rhymes by Byron Hurt, it sort of depicts where we are now. And that film is almost 20 years old. But we have a bunch of people imitating what they see by the bigger artists. Even if they're in bumfuck Iowa, they want to be like, Roddy Ricch. Roddy Ricch has a different image. That was the wrong person to use. But they want to be like 6ix9ine or Lil Baby. Like everybody just mimics. We have a lot of sheep, and that's the power of music. Sometimes music can open and change minds and, sort of be the voice of movements. Like in the civil rights era, we learned more listening to songs than anything. And we've sort of taken the messenger out of music a lot of parts. And, I just think it's important. But we went from, you used to close your eyes and listen to music on a cassette or a CD or 8-track or some vinyl. And now you look at it on a little phone with some headphones. And everybody back then had big stereos and nice sound systems. And now people don't have sound systems at home. They just have nice sound systems in cars. And they listen to music on phones. So sonically it's different. And,
Right. Definitely. That's pretty interesting because I'm not sure if records and tapes are made out of carbon, but I've heard something about that just being on that black material was something that helped resonate a lot of the soul music and a lot of old school R&B that helped it resonate with people so much. Are you familiar with tonage in music? It's said that the 432 gigahertz tone is something that a lot of
I've heard all that stuff, and I'll leave that to the new experts on that. I'm old school. I know a good song and the power in music, and I know frequency and sonics and melody, but a lot of people can't tell the difference between a WAV file and an MP4 and and the trained ear is not really trained that more. I remember always adjusting bass and treble. Like that was like one of the simplest things, and an equalizer, but people don't even think of that anymore. They just hit Spotify and listen as is. So it's a different game now, man. But I'm glad we got to connect, man. It's been a long, productive day for me, and I wanted to, share some time, and I'm glad we did.
Likewise, and I definitely appreciate you stopping by the show and dropping all this knowledge for the people. And for the book Blackout, where can people get it, and how can people connect with you and reach you?
Well, you can get it on my site. I got an app and a website, musicbizu.com, but the book's in Amazon. But the funny thing, man, last story. So I decided to sell the book on my own, So I bought a bunch of books. I was on the first week Joy-annreid had me on MSNBC. But when I got there, they wouldn't let me put blackoutthebook.com, on the scroll underneath me. So I know most people go to Amazon to buy books. So Joy has an audience of like 1.2 million. I know I'm going to get my little 4 minutes, and I'm trying to guess how many books I'm going to sell. But when you put it in Google, every book I would sell at blackoutthebook.com, I would make $12. But every book I sold on Amazon, you make $3, and you get paid in 4 months. And that's off of that. They give you 30%. And if you sell it yourself, you can make 70%. So anyway, I do Joy-Reid show, and I have a Shopify app. And at the last minute of the interview, I go, yeah, you can get the book at blackoutthebook.com. So I'm saying, yeah, I'm slick, and I'm guessing how many people. So the show finishes, and I turn on my phone, and every time you get a sale, your app goes cha-ching. Wow, it just kept going cha-ching, ting, 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 ting. And me and Joy were there, and I was like, oh, shit. It stopped at 7:18, and then there was some more sale. But all the books, 7,000 people bought books that day on Amazon. So the moral of the story is I didn't know what I was doing, because if I had the number one search position, or if the book wasn't on Amazon and people had to buy it from me, I would have made a lot more money. But they all bought it off Amazon because they have a Prime, and I didn't have a published deal. They have a deal where you can send in 1,000 books, and you get 70%. But I didn't know. But anyway, I just had to share that because I felt bad, and I was talking about the book. But watch the Blackout special on C-SPAN too. It's 90 minutes of real TV about the industry. And you can reach me on IG and Twitter and Clubhouse at MusicBizU.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul Porter. Appreciate you for stopping by the show. Everybody.
The bad thing is we should have done this a couple of hours earlier, man. I went to get my eyes checked, and they put some stuff and dilated them, and I can't see a number of words. So anyway, I'm good. And thanks a lot for having me, man. Good interview, good stuff, and let's do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. I hope your eyes get better soon, and hopefully we meet up and work together on a project. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll do it again soon. Peace, man, everybody.
Peace. Thanks, everyone. And that was Mr. Paul Porter with his tell-all book, Blackout. You can go to his site and get that book, or if you want to go on Amazon, you can do that. But everyone, I appreciate you for listening. It's been another episode of Moscova Media Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Moscova ENT, also on Clubhouse, Vic M. A lot of amazing rooms on there, and a great montage of guest speakers. The other day, Elon Musk was actually in Clubhouse just talking about what he's doing in Mars. So that was pretty interesting. So I appreciate everybody for listening. Definitely follow us on Instagram, vMoscova, and download the episode, iTunes, everywhere, pretty much. Spotify, Deezer, and also iHeartRadio. So I appreciate everybody. Thanks.